Hey there, Retro Games fans. This is Andy C from Piece of 8-Bit. Welcome to this week's The Bit Between. This week we're going to be talking for a little bit longer than we usually do, because this week we're looking at an incredibly important game, which, of course, as you may already have guessed on the screen, and that intro sequence says it all. This is GoldenEye for the N64, largely considered to be one of the greatest games of all time. So to start with, let's have a little bit of a chat about GoldenEye and why it's important and a little bit of the history of the game. Then we're going to have a little bit of a gameplay for about 10 to 15 minutes, as we usually do on The Bit Between. And then we're going to talk a little bit about why we think the game is important and why we think it is fantastic and whether or not we still think it is the greatest game ever made. So let's dive in then. So before Call of Duty, before Halo, before Fortnite, all of those things, there was GoldenEye 007, released in August of 1997 for the Nintendo 64, of course. This game didn't just redefine what a first-person shooter could be on consoles, it essentially invented the modern template for all of them. Developed by Rare, obviously the studio behind such incredible games as Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and then later on other titles such as Perfect Dark. Of course, GoldenEye started life as something completely different. In fact, and I didn't know this until I looked into it, it was originally planned as a 2D side-scroller for the SNES. But Rare was given access to Nintendo's shiny new 64-bit hardware, and of course then the rest is history. So whilst the team was tiny, fewer than a dozen people in fact, many of them straight out of uni, and astonishingly most of them never even made a video game before, led by Martin Hollis and the team that worked out of a converted farmhouse in Twycross in England, building a Bond game that would outlive the film it was based on. GoldenEye the film hit the cinemas in 1995, reviving James Bond for a new generation with Pierce Brosnan in the role. A film I absolutely adore. I think it is Pierce Brosnan's, whilst it is his first outing, I think it is definitely his best outing. The game, however, took an extra 2 years to arrive. When it did, nobody, not even Nintendo, expected it to be that much of a hit. And of course, as we all know, in hindsight, it was massive. GoldenEye sold over 8 million copies worldwide, making it the third best-selling Nintendo 64 game of all time, just behind Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64, which obviously are incredible titles to be following. Racked up awards left, right and centre, became the must-have multiplayer experience of the late 90s. And of course, talking to multiplayer, that mode was famously added last minute. Again, this is something I didn't realise, but he's obviously a huge part of this game. Programmer Steve Ellis built it in almost as a bit of an experiment, and with just a few weeks left before the game shipped, it was a bit of a side project that ended up defining really the entire living room gaming generation. Now, I haven't played it with multiplayer in this playthrough because I have no friends. For those of you who played this game back in the day, you will remember. And of course, 4 players, 1 screen, proximity mines, remote mines, and of course arguments about who gets to be odd job. It wasn't just a shooter, of course it was an absolute social event. So let's dive into some gameplay now for about 10-12 minutes, and I am going to just talk through the gameplay as we go, and then at the end obviously we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts on this incredible N64 game. Right then, let's get into this then. It's the first mission, and this is probably one of the most famous missions that Bond has to do. He has to jump off the dam, which is at the beginning of the film, of course. Let's go over here. So, mention that I am playing this on an emulator, so Loopin 64 emulator, which means I am also using a using a PlayStation 4 controller actually, which might seem sacrilege. I'm not using the rather excellent N64 controller. Now, I say rather excellent N64 controller because for this game it kind of was really good, and this game really kind of lent itself to this game, the way that you use the trigger on it. The N64 controller was quite controversial. I think some people loved it, some people hated it. I am personally not a massive fan of it for every single game on the N64. It is great for games like this, but it is not so good for other games. It's just a bit too unwieldy, I find personally, and I know I'm going to get some hate for that, but for this game it's perfect because the way that you hold the controller is essentially like holding a gun. So I've been playing this on the N64 itself directly, and I've also been playing it on the Nintendo Switch with the N64 Nintendo Switch controller as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And the nice thing about that is wireless. I cannot for some reason get it to work on here, on the Mupen emulator. It works, but not all the buttons work as you'd expect. So it's actually a bit easier to use the PlayStation 4 controller, which is what I'm using, paired to my Mac, which is what I run my recordings on. Oh, that's bad. Where's that guy coming from? I'm getting shot behind here. Oh, I didn't see you. I should know this. I've done this mission a load of times. So controls are pretty straightforward, to be honest. This mission is not too tricky, actually. So what we're going to do is we're going to play through this mission. I'm going to talk you through it a little bit. And then I will go into the second mission. But when we do the second mission, I'm actually just going to talk to you a little bit about, as I mentioned in the first section there, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why this game is largely considered to be one of the best games ever made, and I'm going to tell you what I think as well. I changed my gun there, did not mean to do that. That's not what I meant to do at all. There we go. I actually quite like the little silencer gun. I keep pressing that one button. Get with the program, Mandy. Come on. No. There we go. This is the trouble with using a non-native controller for playing N64 games, is quite often it is incorrect. Oh, that's cold. Shot him in the back. Controls did take a little bit of getting used to. If you're not an N64 player, as indeed I'm not particularly an N64 player myself, found the controls to be a little bit clunky to start with. And I have to say, if you play Perfect Dark, which is a game I played sort of right at the beginning of this month, there we go, let's shut that noise off. I did find that experience to be a little bit more polished, if I'm honest. Where are you shooting me from? Getting shot here by somebody. Oh, over there. You're over there. Okay, let's go this way. Where did you come from? The aiming is quite cool. It sort of locks on. If you're sort of in the general vicinity, it will lock on. So you don't have to worry about sort of fine detail. And that's one of the really cool things about this game, I think, is the fact that this proved that you could do first-person shooters on a console. And of course, the N64 was the first console really to have that stick, that analog stick controller, which really enabled you to be able to play this sort of game on here, which up until this point it would have been really tricky with a sort of D-pad style controller that you had on kind of previous generations. Even the PlayStation 1, of course, this was sort of predating wide adoption, at least, of the DualShock controller, which had those. Yeah, the PlayStation had that sort of DualShock controller a little bit later into its cycle. It certainly wasn't widely adopted until later on. A lot of games didn't necessarily support it, or they had to support kind of both analog and digital controls anyway. So this just felt a little bit more of a natural experience to anything we'd seen on the PS1. Oh, he's just going to come down here. That's going to help me, to be honest. Oh dear, I'm shooting that guy absolute fool. But you kind of get an idea for the mechanics there in terms of the way that it sort of locks on. Right. Now, I can't go down these stairs, I think. You can go down in the dark. I don't actually need to do all of this, but being as we've got a little bit of time to talk about the game a little bit more, let's do that. Right. blowing yourself up down there. What is going on? Where am I getting shot from? Oh, you're right there. I didn't even see you. Ah. Oh, another one hiding behind the corner. I should have learned. This is certainly a tactic when you're playing The Light's Perfect Dark as well that Rare like to do, is like hiding people behind these kind of places. Right. I don't actually know what's down. I don't think I've been down here before, actually. Normally, I kind of go onto the top of the dam and then... I might be. I wonder if there's a secondary mission down here. That glass breaking graphic as well, which I quite like. I think I probably would have thought that was pretty cool. The fact that you've got this sort of, you can shoot the glass a couple of times and then it kind of explodes. I would have been impressed by that. I absolutely would have been. It just feels like the sort of thing that frankly was a little bit new at the time. Let's kind of put these up. I can, look at that. You know, the fact you can shoot the wall as well, look, and you can leave bullet indentations on there. That's kind of cool. So a lot of firsts in this game. I mean, obviously it looks quite dated now, especially things like the faces and some of the mechanics and that feel a bit dated. People in particular are looking a bit pants. And if, of course, the other thing as well, I'm playing this on an emulator, so it does look a little bit sharper. If you play this on the N64, it does look a bit on the blurry side now. I've said this before about other games. I think if you're going to go back and revisit the N64, it is kind of worth going and having a play with it on. If it's on the emulator on the Switch, definitely go and have a look at that, because I think the games themselves are actually pretty smart. But when you're uprating a N64 on a big TV, it does struggle a bit, and actually I think the emulators and the Switch versions of the game look really, really good. This, you know, although this is on the emulator here, what you're seeing is pretty much what it will look like on the Switch. Pretty close. Emulation can be a little bit tricky. I tried playing this on the Raspberry Pi. With the Retro Pi build, and it really struggled actually on a Raspberry Pi 4 playing this. This is just playing, see, directly on my you know, fairly modern, well, very modern Mac M4. That guy see me? There is literally no benefit, I think, of coming down here, to be perfectly honest with you, but I'm just doing it for fun. Maybe someone there, isn't there? Well, there was nobody there. Right. Now, I don't just love that soundtrack. I'm probably going to get a copyright strike on my YouTube channel, to be honest with you, being as this is Bond's theme. And I think that's what people really love about this game, is the fact that, you know, it feels authentic, it feels like Bond. Let's face it, for us lads out there, many of us, you know, love the idea of playing as Bond. You know, Bond is obviously the hero that you all wanted to be, especially in the 90s. Pierce Brosnan Bond, very suave and sophisticated, as indeed all the Bonds were, I suppose. Is there anybody up there? I thought I saw somebody up there a minute ago. Okay. Alright, let's go do the big dive then, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about why this game is considered to be one of the best games ever, and also, I mean, I've obviously touched a little bit on the gameplay today. We're going to talk a little bit about why I think it is a very important game, why it maybe in this day and age perhaps isn't the best game anymore. But we're going to talk about all of that, I think, before I accidentally kill myself by going the wrong way. There we go. I think that's where I've got to go off in a minute, so we'll do that in a second. Let's just see if there's any more peeps down here. Someone here. Get his attention. Oh, you saw me then, just as I did that, I just sort of locked on. Now, I wonder... weapons. See a few of those. Is there anything else I need to do here? I'm just having a quick look. I don't think there is. I think literally I've just got to jump off the bungee, so I don't think there's much more for me to do. Quite like that little mechanic as well. You go and have a look at your mission and you've got your fancy watch. Have I just died? Have I gone off the wrong bit? I think I did. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't. Here we go. Okay. So this is the opening scene of GoldenEye, of course, in the movie when he jumps off the dam and everybody goes, oh my goodness, and gets a serious case of vertigo. Absolutely fantastic. Let's watch this. And there we go. That is the first mission complete. Obviously, I took a little bit longer than I should have done. 12 minutes. Oh, there we go. That's a perfect amount of head time. Looking at reading one thing, saying another of playtime. So let's go and have a chat now. I'm going to play another mission, but I'm just going to talk over the top of that. I'm just going to do a bit of a voiceover, and we'll discuss a little bit more about the impact of this game, why it's important, and why people consider it to be one of the greatest games of all time. I'll see you there. So I'd love to hear your memories of this game. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of playthrough there. Obviously, I'll continue with the playthrough on the second mission in the background here. So 20 plus years later, does it still hold up? Well, actually, thinking about it, it's nearly 30 years old, isn't it? I mean, in a couple of years' time, this game will be 30 years old, which is absolutely mad to believe. And in fact, GoldenEye, the movie itself, is actually 30 years old, which is also crazy. But let's be honest, by today's standards, well, the controls do feel a little on the clunky side. The frame rate is a little bit all over the place. And if you've grown up with twin sticks, mouse, keyboard, all of those sorts of things, then aiming with an analog single stick might just feel like trying to paint with a broom. It is a bit mad. But here's the thing, right? GoldenEye wasn't just good for its time. It did change things. It changed its time. It showed the world that a console FPS could absolutely work. It introduced stealth elements to a genre that was mostly blasting everything in sight, and it rewarded exploration, precision, and replayability now with its iconic mission objectives and difficulty scaling. Each difficulty level didn't just make enemies tougher, it added more objectives. That simple mechanic just gave players a reason to go back over and over and over again, and completing missions quickly unlocked those time-based cheats, paintball mode, big head mode. That's hilarious. If you've ever tried it, look it up. Infinite ammo, absolute classics. And then of course there's that multiplayer. The concept of split screen deathmatch might seem pretty primitive by today's standards, of course, but this was the game that made it mainstream. Let's not forget that. Friday nights in the late 90s, basically 4 mates on a sofa, CRT TV glowing in the background, and maybe a big bag of Doritos and perhaps a beer if you're old enough. The unspoken rule of no screen looking. GoldenEye inspired everything that followed it. Perfect Dark obviously refined that formula. I love Perfect Dark, and actually we'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about whether we think it's the best or not. But yeah, Perfect Dark, absolutely fantastic, refining that formula. Time Splitters, made by the many of the same developers actually, carried that DNA forward as well. Another absolutely fantastic game. Love playing on the PlayStation 2. And then of course over on the PC, developers took notice as well. We had Half-Life, Halo, Call of Duty, and they just owe a little quiet debt, I would say, to this unassuming Bond tie-in. It wasn't just about the mechanics. GoldenEye captured something really cinematic in its atmosphere. It really did. You felt like you were Bond. You had that amazing soundtrack. It just felt so cool. You had that music, the level design, the gadgets, the tension of creeping through a facility rather than just kind of sprinting through the corridors. It was essentially a movie that you could play, and people just absolutely lapped it up. And that was long before that phrase ever really became a marketing cliche at the end of the day. And then, obviously, let's not forget the more recent remasters and re-releases as well. Proof that GoldenEye's legacy really does hold power today. So whether you're playing the updated Xbox version, dusting off an original N64 cart, the magic just remains the same. And as I mentioned, I played this on the Switch, actually. I played it on the N64 for a little bit, and then I thought, why am I playing it on here? There's just no need. It was blurry, it was clunky, and I was fortunate enough to have that controller as well, the N64 controller for the Switch. But to be honest with you, played this on the emulator to do the recording on the PlayStation 4 controller, and it works great. It's one of the few games, actually, that translates to a more modern controller really, really well. Love or hate that N64 controller, of course, that is a big part of it, but this game really did prove what you could do with it, which was absolutely fantastic. So, here's the thing, right? Is GoldenEye still the best game ever made? Well, it's a difficult one, really, and I don't think it's an easy answer. I mean, maybe not in raw gameplay terms in modern times now, but you absolutely cannot overstate the impact of this game. It's a once-in-a-generation mix of ambition, experimentation, and it's really good fun. And that part, I think, is still there. I do really enjoy this game. I think it's great fun to play. You still get that real Bond vibe, and I don't think there's been another Bond game that has really kind of captured that essence of Bond in the same way that this game did. Agent Under Fire was a game that I played quite a bit on the PlayStation 2. I think it was on the PS2, and it just annoyed me, actually. That game irritated me. I got stuck on the end boss and I couldn't get past it, and it just drove me mad. Whereas I can just pick and play this game at any time. It is just fantastic. It's just still really, really enjoyable to play. So it wasn't just another licensed game. It was kind of lightning in a bottle, really. That it just, you know, people just remember this game so fondly, and you can still go and play it again. So I think probably, is it the greatest game ever made? Well, I think like I say, in terms of gameplay, then yeah, other games have improved on it. But this was the first. This was the one that created the mold in the first place. This was the one that started it all. If you play Perfect Dark as a game, I think actually Perfect Dark is the better game. I love Perfect Dark. I think it's fantastic. But you cannot ignore the fact that without this game, Perfect Dark wouldn't have existed. And no game, I think, captures that Bond feeling, that spy feeling that you get from this game. It is that, like I say, that once in a generation. It ticks all the boxes, and where would we be without it? I don't think. So there you go. That is my view. Let me know what you think. Do you think it's the best game of all time? Do you think it's been surpassed now? I'd love to hear your thoughts and memories of playing this game, whether it was on your own or with your friends. Absolutely fantastic. And that is probably it for today. So I hope you enjoyed that little playthrough on the Bit Between and my little summary of that at the end there. Coming up in the channel, we've got we've got my live stream coming up on October the 31st. So if you're watching this after October the 31st, you can go back and have a look at the recording of that. Otherwise, please do join me on Friday the 31st of October at 8 PM UK time. And I will be doing my first live stream. It's going to be Alien Isolation. I am absolutely terrified to be doing it. And then, of course, we will be doing, in the next full Friday recording, we'll be looking back at the N64 and letting you know what it's been like to live with for a month, including playing this fabulous game, as well as many others as well, some of which I've given a few previews on. So we'll be talking about that, and yeah, that's probably it. So I'll also be revealing next month's console, and I realise it's been a year of anniversaries. We had the 40th anniversary of the Master System recently, and the console that I will be looking at next, to give you a bit of a clue, is also celebrating a bit of an anniversary as well. But more on that in a week and a bit's time. So please do stay tuned. And to make sure you don't miss anything, please do hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much. It gives me that little pat on the back, as I've said before. Really do appreciate the support. Yeah, that's probably it for today. So yes, please do all take care of yourselves, and I will see you on Friday, hopefully, or in the next one. And that just leaves me to say bye for now. Bye for now.